All right, everyone, I'm calling this meeting to order at 10:24 a.m. Before we begin, I'd like to do a territorial acknowledgement. We respectfully acknowledge that the SFSS is located under traditional, unceded territories of the Coast Salish people, including the Musqueam, Squamish, Tsleil-Waututh, Coquitlam, and Katzie nations. Unceded means that these territories have never been handed over, sold, or given up by these nations, and we're currently situated on occupied territories. Next, we're going to go through the roll call attendance. I'm going to call on you by your position, and please give us your name, pronouns, and access needs. I'll start. Hi, everyone. My name is Abby. He, him pronouns. Access needs are met. I'm just going to be a little bit slow today because I got out of the sub very late last night. All right. Next, we have the acting VP Internal and Organizational Development.
Hi, everybody. My name is Peter. He, him, his pronouns, and all my access needs are met.
Thank you, Peter. Next, we have the acting VP Finance and Services. I'll read them aloud in the chat if you like. Roscoe, he, him. I'm on my computer at home and mic is not working properly. Thank you, Roscoe. Acting VP University and Academic Affairs is not here. VP External and Community Affairs.
Hi, everyone. Ishana, she, her pronouns, access needs met.
Thank you, Ishana. We have the VP Equity and Sustainability.
Hi, everyone. My name is Songyan, she, her pronouns, all my access needs are met.
Thank you, Sungyoon, and it looks like our VP Events is not here yet. Moving on to Society Staff, we have our Board Organizer.
Hi, everyone. This is Ella, pronouns she, her, hers, and all my access needs are met.
Thank you, Ella. Also looks like we have our Temporary Operations Organizer.
Hi, all. Sindhu here, pronouns she, her, hers, and all my access needs are met.
Thank you, Sindhu. And last but not least, we have our Admin Assistant. In the chat, hello, my name is Rianne, she, her, and all my access needs are met. Thank you, Rianne. Doesn't look like we have any guests at the moment, which is actually a bad thing today. Let's see if they end up. Next, we have consent agenda. Then consent agenda reads, be it resolved to adopt the consent agenda by unanimous consent. Under consent agenda, we have matters arising from the minutes. And basically, it's asking to be it resolved to follow or to file the following meeting minutes, which are from our October 28th, November 18th, January 13th, and January 23rd executive committee meetings. Does anyone object to filing these meeting minutes? Seeing none, that passes. We're going to move on to adoption of the agenda. Motion reads, be it resolved to adopt the agenda as presented. I'll move. Can you get a seconder, please?
VP External.
I think I heard external on that one. Thank you. Roscoe has listed in the chat, so you can go ahead, Roscoe, if you have an amendment. Three in-camera items. Take your time with that. Three items are sponsorship discussion, SPC card contract, and club issue discussion. Okay, I think that may, I'm going to end up retracting my list because I think we're on the same page on what we're going to add on. So Roscoe moves three in-camera amendments. Just to repeat, it's sponsorship discussion, SPC card contract, and club issue discussion. Is there a seconder?
VP Goody.
VP Equity seconds. Is there any discussion on these amendments? Seeing none, we're going to take this to a vote. Seeking unanimous consent. If you wish to dissent, please use the raise hand function on Zoom, and I'll call on you for your vote. Seeing none, that passes. All right, Peter, you're next on the list.
I just got this for new business, just for relating to the executive door. I took the unlock the executive door, whereas the executive door, or would you like to read it, or?
Either way is fine.
Okay, well, I'll just read it quickly. Whereas the executive door was locked, whereas the executive door typically remains unlocked, whereas the executives who have felt unsafe in the past now feel comfortable with unlocking the executive door, be it resolved to unlock the executive door.
Cool. Peter moves that. Can I get a seconder, please?
VP Equity.
VP Equity seconds. Is there any discussion on this? Seeing none, I'll take this to vote. We're going to seek unanimous consent on this. If you wish to dissent, please use the raise hand function on Zoom and I'll call on you for your vote. Seeing none, that passes. Okay, I believe that's it for the list. So the motion now reads, be it resolved to adopt the agenda as amended. Is there any last second amendments? Seeing none, we're going to take this to a vote. We're going to seek unanimous consent on this. Seeking unanimous consent, if you wish to dissent, please use the raise hand function on Zoom and I'll call on you for your vote. Seeing none, that passes. All right, so we're going to move on to our agenda now. Our first item is already on there prior to the amendments. It is the student care presentation. And I believe we have Sophia here from student care. Sophia, whenever you're ready, I have screen sharing and stuff enabled, so whatever works for you. Thank you so much for coming on.
Perfect. Thank you so much, Abby. Apologies if I was a little bit late to hop on. Give me one moment. So today I'm going to be sharing with you a historical update presentation of your annual claims report. Typically, this would be shared with the team in November or December of the year, but you had a very busy November and December, and I think it's totally fine for us to be going over this information right now. Given that it's so much later in the year and soon we'll get to actually look at projections in about a month or so time, I won't spend too much time on this, but I want to make sure that it's documented and in the record for your team to have access to this information. So what this report shares with you is an historical update of how your students have been interacting with the plan. The blue bars represent per month health claims that were made on the plan, and the green bars represent, pardon me, the per month dental claims that were made on the plan. You'll notice that the plan premium bar, the little slash across the page, remains fairly static over the course of the year with a small bump and increase in January to account for the increased enrollment that happens during the January intake period. Your plan had a fairly healthy year last year, and as you know, we went to RFQ. We're able to lock in a 2-year rate guarantee for your plan coverage to kind of buy you this opportunity in time of stability as you project forward and try and get this referendum question to pass to enable your plan to have sustainable plan benefits over the longer period of time. These numbers actually did work in your favor in soliciting and getting that lower quote that we were able to negotiate for you. And you'll notice in a couple of pages of why that was. But across the board, some interesting things that we like to look at is to see what months these spikes are happening in, because that kind of helps tell us when are students going out there and reaching out to access their plan benefits. On the dental side and on the health side, your plan has a couple of unique features. We don't typically see September being such a big month for dental, or we don't typically see January being such a big month. Usually we see people going to the dentist in the student population either over the Christmas break or in the summer months. Oftentimes midterm season is like a peak time for people to, use health and wellness checkups as a way to procrastinate perhaps, but this is unusual to see September being such a big spike right off the bat. Nothing good or bad about this inherently, just interesting data to have. Over here, we'll get to see a 5-year horizon, and this is really helpful data for us and for your team to kind of see how your plan claims have been trending year over year. You'll notice a very interesting thing happened that's not surprising to any of us. In 2019-2020, for both health claims and dental claims, there was a big dip. And if you recall, this was early on in the pandemic, during the lockdown phase of pandemic, where you just couldn't access these services unless it was an emergency situation. But if you remove that year from your analysis, so when you're looking at these charts, you'll see that after that initial lockdown period, your plan is kind of picking right back up. And so when you remove that year, you have virtually a staircase going up in terms of utilization on your plan. And when we first began talking about having a referendum question, you were sitting in those first two columns where you were seeing a huge spike in 2018-19. And the artificial decrease in utilization that happened because of the pandemic actually helped your plan a lot and was able to sustain the fee level that you currently have for a couple more years, simply because the pandemic and the return in premium that happened for you that year played a huge part in that. Another thing that'll help in your favor is increasing enrollment during recession times, for example, which we were potentially heading into. We will see student plans have a slight increase in plan enrollment. That helps your plan cost because it's able to be spread out across a greater population size. And you see that kind of reflected in the per capita numbers below, but you'll notice that they're just kind of picked up pretty dramatically post-pandemic and have exceeded the 2018-2019 levels of $210 per student claimed to $218 per student. I'm going to skip over this. This is just more detail of the charts that we just reviewed together. On your plan, one of the biggest driving factors of the cost of your plan has actually been vision claims. Some of us have had conversations around this before, but when the vision clinic had opened on campus, that really drew up costs because you now had a practitioner on campus actively being able to promote and communicate and advertise to students to come use their plan benefits at their location, and therefore had a huge spike on vision claims. We've had conversations with the VP Finance around ways and strategies and how to kind of cushion and protect that in the future. One way, of course, is to reduce and adjust your coverage levels to with the understanding that this is being driven by one practitioner in particular, and they're benefiting greatly from your student plan. But that's likely a conversation for a later time. But for your information, that's the biggest driving factor. Prescription drugs is also there, but that's an expected impact and change on your plan, whereas vision is a little bit more unusual. On the dental side, the breakdowns tend to be a lot less interesting data, but the big takeaway for us here is that the biggest claimed category on your plan is preventative care, and that's great to see. We want to see students being very proactive about their dental hygiene. The more proactive they are there, the less more expensive procedures are needed down the line, and just better for overall student well-being and health as well. These are just comparison charts, which are a lot more handy when we're making benefit cut or change decisions. Here you'll see a line-by-line breakdown of each coverage category that exists in your plan and how students have interacted with this. Some key areas that we often look at and like to monitor are, for example, psychology claims. On the left side are the numbers from the previous policy year, and on the right-hand column is the most recent policy year that just closed. And you'll see that there was a small increase in psychology claims or access to psychology claims. The second biggest category of claims on your plan is physiotherapy, followed very closely by chiropractic care. And that's fairly standard, I think, across student plans. We're seeing huge increases in utilization of psychology benefits. Physio and chiro, or physio and massage, tend to be the second biggest claim categories. Medical aids and equipment are usually the more true, I guess, insurance components of the plan. Usually they're unexpected costs that happen or are not claimed very frequently. Sleep apnea aids are up there as one of the highest claimed category numbers and had a significant kind of almost doubled year over year. Other things to note is ambulance coverage. People are often surprised to see ambulance coverage included on the insured benefits, but this is something that's not covered by MSP. But if you take a ride to the hospital, the ambulance ride is covered by private plans or your student plan. You see that it says hospital here, and this is likely for someone getting access for maybe a more private room, etc., but not the actual hospital stay, which is actually by MSP. We also share data with you just for general tracking purposes on when students are interacting with their prescription drug coverage, what categories are they interacting with, and where are their claim dollars going. When we break it down by the dollar amount paid, the biggest category on your plan are central nervous system medications. This includes everything from ADHD, anxiety, or depression medications, followed closely by birth control, which is very, very common. These flip back and forth as being the top two drug categories claimed on a student plan. One thing we have seen in past years kind of have a bit more of a spike and start to show up on student plans is respiratory system claims. And this is often in response in Western Canada to forest fires. So in years where we've had really bad forest fires, we'll see an increase in students claiming things like inhalers, for example, on the student plan. Here's the number breakdown for you to reference later on if you were interested. And then we also give you the exact drug categories. This is important for us to be able to track as well, just so we know how students are interacting, which drugs are the more popular ones, and if any drugs happen to still be on patent and then come off patent. This helps to really clearly understand the impact that has on a student population. We've had conversations with some of you already on Gardasil, for example, as being one where, since now it is part of the BC kind of MSP drugs that are covered in elementary school and in high school, that in several years, it's highly probable that the majority of the population coming into university will have already received the Gardasil vaccination and had it been covered by the provincial plan. And so you'll see less of that hopefully on the student plan. That's going to be a significant savings, potentially be replaced by some other higher cost medication for another reason. But at least for Gardasil, that's the intended trajectory of how that should impact your plan. We also share with you the top drugs by the number of claims. And this is interesting to see because sometimes the top drug by amount paid is different than the top drug by number of claims. And that can show us the difference between a medication that is really expensive but claimed by a fewer number of students versus a cheaper medication, but that's claimed by and supports a lot of students. And usually in the number of claims, you'll often see birth control as being like the top 6, 7 medications. And you kind of are seeing that there with the low and it's a less, etc. So it's a similar pattern on your plan. And these are just some more charts comparing the dental year over year. This is the detailed breakdown of dental claims utilization. I won't go into this in as much detail as the health claims, just because dental codes are very, very unique, and the data for us at this stage anyway is not as helpful or interesting to review, but this information is included in the report. Abby, I'll be sure to pass this on to you, so feel free to circulate it to the exec team, and you can browse through this in your free time should you be interested. We include at the end a explainer on something called biological medications. These are medicines that we have started to see show up on student plans. When they do show up, they are a lot more expensive, simply because they include either vaccine or blood components that make them a lot pricier a drug to create. Often common ones that we have seen show up on student plans include Humira, and we haven't seen this happen on your plan, and your plan does have the appropriate, I guess, restrictions or like access points in place to protect the plan from this, while still giving students at least introductory access to the coverage that they need. But that's there as well if this is something that you are interested in learning more about. But that is the end of the annual claims update and presentation. The next one that you'll see from us will be a renewal projection to show you where your costs are projected to end up at the end of the current policy year. This is a report that this year you do not have to act on because you're in the middle of a 2-year rate guarantee, but we like to still come and give you that update so that you are aware of where the plan trajectory is going. Not a surprise to any of us, those preliminary numbers do show an increase, and so I think the efforts that you're putting in to run this referendum, again, although as nervous as it made me, I think that you're making the hard call in putting that ask out again, and hopefully saving your future successors some pain in managing the plan financials in future years. So thank you for that. I'm happy to take questions. I'll stop sharing so I can see everyone, or not, but you can see me and I can take questions.
Thank you, Sophia. If anyone has questions, feel free to list in the chat. I'll start. Hey, thank you for taking the time again today to do that presentation. I had a question around vision care briefly. I believe you mentioned there was one practitioner on campus that was really driving up the cost. Is that necessarily a bad thing? Like, are they overcharging? Is there like some sort of negative thing to it, or is it just purely that the utilization goes up because that is there?
I don't think that there's anything nefarious happening. Like, I don't think they're like submitting false claims or anything like that. That's not the purpose of that. It's just that when you have, we've noticed it on our campuses across the country. Anytime you have a student union building and let's say they put in a dental office in there, dental claims are going to go up by at least 25% or approximately that. Like, you're going to expect a spike to happen. And is that a bad thing? That's not a bad thing. You've just made it more convenient for students to access care. We always talk about like health plan is not a physical box. You don't get like you don't start your year at SFU and say, here is your box of health plan coverage. And then as you remove and use it, that you empty the box. That's not how it works. It exists, but having a practitioner actually be on your campus all of a sudden makes it a tangible reminder. It's in many ways the best communication that you can have for that particular coverage component on your plan. What we do find happens is that when that happens, there's not a course. Like we often joke that if you're going to bring in a dental network provider or a vision provider or some kind of provider, charge them more rent. Like they're getting a lot of student dollars on their bottom line, that it's okay for them to be paying more than you think that you initially would have given them on their lease or whatever, just so that you can recuperate, at least put into the general student population budget some more of that money, because they are driving the cost of the plan up as a single kind of force, if that makes sense. And so one other way to look at it is, make it mandatory that they are a member or offering a student discount so that the rates kind of are managed that way. I don't think, and I haven't looked at this in some time, but I don't think that this vision practitioner was charging exorbitant rates. And that's what's causing the issue. It's just the more increased access. But I will be happy to go back and give that a quick review and make sure that it is kind of in line with the average, because vision is one of those areas where you can go and pay for a luxury, eye exam experience and it'll cost you $150, or you can get it done for $75, so there's a big discrepancy there.
Thank you, Sophia.
No problem.
Yes, that would be great if you could check on that. No rush on that.
Yeah, no, of course.
I got other stuff going on, but
yes,
you can check on that.
For sure.
Thank you. Anyone else have any questions, comments? Feel free to list in the chat. Voices, thank you, Sophia.
No problem. Thanks so much, everyone. Good luck with referendum campaigning.
Thank you, Sophia. Yeah, we're going to continue on with our meeting, but you're welcome to stay.
Right. Bye. I'm gonna head out. Thank you.
Take care. All right, everyone, we're moving on to new business. The only new business we have is a motion titled Unlocking the Executive Door. Just oh, thank you, Peter. The motion reads as follows: whereas the executive door was locked, whereas the executive door typically remains unlocked, whereas executives who have felt unsafe in the past now feel comfortable with unlocking the executive door, be it resolved to unlock the executive door. Can I get a mover?
VP Goody.
I got VP Equity for the mover, and then can I get a seconder?
VP Internal.
VP Internal seconds. All right. Is there any discussion on this? I am not seeing any, so we're going to take this to a vote, and we're going to seek unanimous consent on this. Seeking unanimous consent. If you wish to dissent, sorry, V, go ahead.
I would like to abstain.
Oh, okay. Seeking unanimous consent. If you wish to dissent, please use the raise hand function on Zoom like V did, and I'll call on you for your vote. So far we have V abstaining, and seems everyone else is in favor. So we're gonna, it passes by unanimous consent, but just please note that V is abstained. Thank you, V, and thank you everyone else. All right, I believe that moves us on to in-camera. And we have 3 in-camera discussion items. We have sponsorship discussion, SPC, card contract, and club issue discussion. And the motion reads, be it resolved to go in camera for the remainder of the meeting. I'll move that. Can we get a seconder, please? Do you want to second that?
API.
Events.
1 second. Sorry, Peter, he had his hand up, but it might have been a legacy hand, but I'll give him the benefit of the doubt. Is there any discussion on this? Seeing none, we'll take this to a vote. I'm going to seek unanimous consent. If you wish to dissent, please use the raise hand function on Zoom and I'll call on you for your vote. Seeing none, this passes. All right, everyone, we are back. And we are just going to move X camera. So the motion reads, be it resolved to move X camera for the remainder of the meeting. I'll move. Can we get a seconder, please?
PP Equity.
PP Equity seconds. Is there any discussion to moving X camera? Seeing none, I'll take this to a vote. We're going to seek unanimous consent. If you wish to dissent, please use the raise hand function on Zoom and I'll call on you for your vote. Seeing none, that passes. I've now listed in the chat. I am going to move to suspend the rules and add a new business item titled Club Suspension Appeal. That's the title. The motion reads as follows. Whereas the executive committee received an appeal for suspension of a club, whereas the executive committee discussed this matter in camera, be it resolved that the executive committee rejects the appeal for the suspension. I'll move that. Can I get a seconder?
EPUA.
PPUA seconds. So just so everyone knows, suspending the rules is debatable, not amendable, and it will take a 2/3 majority. So is there any discussion on this? Seeing none, we're going to take this to a vote. I'm going to seek unanimous consent. If you wish to dissent, please use the raise hand function on Zoom and I'll call on you for your vote. Seeing none, that passes. All right, so we have a new business item now titled Club Suspension Appeal. And as I mentioned, I'm not going to read it out loud again because I read it out loud like 10 seconds ago. But I am going to have to seek a mover and seconder on this. So I'll move. Can I get a seconder, please? Internal seconds. All right. Is there any discussion on this motion? Obviously, I do caution everyone that in-camera discussion be kept in camera. But if you have anything ex-camera you want to say or questions, you can feel free to do so. I'm not seeing any, so we're going to take this to a vote. I'm going to seek unanimous consent on this. Seeking unanimous consent. If you wish to dissent, please use the raise hand function on Zoom and I'll call on you for your vote. Seeing none, this passes unanimously. All right, everyone. That's all we got left on the agenda aside from adjournment. So, motion now reads, be it resolved to adjourn the meeting at 11:32 a.m. I will move. Can we get a seconder? Internal seconds. Is there any discussion? Seeing none, we're going to take this to a vote. We're going to seek unanimous consent. Seeking unanimous consent. If you wish to dissent, please use the raise hand function on Zoom and I'll call on you for your vote. Seeing none, that passes. All right, thank you, everybody.